welcome to another edition of Sunshine Spotlight. I'm James Campion, and it's really great to welcome in an old friend, a really great performer and singer-songwriter. I love to call him the songsmith, Eric Hutchinson. Hey, man.
Hello, James.
How are
That's my
you?
big intro.
That's good. I like it. I have a surprise for you right off the bat. You ready?
Okay, let's see.
So, Eric and I met in, it turns out, we kept saying 2005 for years, but we
Yeah.
were off a year. 2006, my wife and I went to go see Joe Jackson at Town Hall. And who rambles out all by himself in front of a keyboard and a guitar? Eric Hutchinson. And I was so blown away by that set. I ran out to the lobby, got his record, called whatever number was on the back of it. And the next thing you know, we're doing interviews, and we've been pretty much doing them ever since. And I have the ticket stub. It's probably
Wow. There it
upside
is,
down.
June 30th, 2006. We're gonna have to celebrate. We got our 15th anniversary coming up.
Indeed. Happy anniversary, my friend.
Same to you.
So the first question I have to ask you, which I ask all my guests, it's been a quarantine going on. You might have heard of this
I
quarantine
have,
thing.
yeah.
You and I met in September, masks and all, out in front of the White Horse Tavern. But it's other than that, that's the only time I've been in New York City. You've been very active, though. We're going to get to new music in a second, but how has been your quarantine as far as creatively, what you've been doing?
Um, it has not been a particularly creative period for me, I would say. I'm kind of just starting to do some new things and write some new stuff for myself. But it's, I don't have to tell anybody. It's been a really weird year. It's been a really hard year. I spent several of the first months just kind of in survival mode, taking care of my young daughter and just wondering what was going to happen to the world. And, I was not in the headspace or the interest of creating. It wasn't, maybe if I had lived on my own and did nothing else to do at the time, but I was honestly just too overwhelmed. So and then when that happened, I was about to release an album. Since then, I've released it, and I'm about to I've released another album. And I had some things that were stored up, luckily, but it's been a weird time, But that being said, I feel very resilient because we've figured out a lot of ways to bring the music to people. We've started doing private Zoom concerts, which have been really fun, where people will have, 20 different Zoom cameras all over, and I'm playing for them. And it took me a while to figure out how to do that. And now I like to think I'm pretty good at it. And I've been doing all kinds of projects that I didn't have the time for because I was always on tour. So I did a songwriting master class for a couple of weeks with some
Right.
students, and I've been doing these songwriting commissions for people. So I've been staying busy once we kind of got up and running again, but it's been wild. And I think you and I have talked about this many a times that I cannot be depressed to create music. I have to be like beyond the depression and then go look back on the depression and be like, okay, here's some things to say about it. But when I'm really depressed, I don't want to do anything.
Right. Well, we should mention that Class of '98 was the record that you had ready and poised to go in early 2020. You and I do a series of podcasts every time. I'm honored to do them with you. Every time you have a new
Yeah.
record. We did one for Modern Happiness, and we did one for this one, Class of '98, which is a series of songs about your high school years. How did you pivot? Because you were ready to tour this thing. We talked about how great some of the songs would be, the live and everything. And then you
Yeah.
released this thing. You've had a couple of singles. How did that whole thing work for you? How were you able to navigate that?
I don't have any good answers for this stuff. Am I being a good guest so far? Honestly, it's just been trial and error. It's been, like everyone, I am kind of amazed to see how many ways how adaptable we are as human beings, and how innovative we are in times of need. And, the idea that sort of all of society has managed to function over Zoom the last year, and the things we've figured out how to do in different ways. I think when I'm feeling cynical, it's like, oh, this is weird and sad. But when I'm feeling positive, I think there's a lot of innovation we've moved forward quickly in the last year that's going to be a big part of our life. I mean, here we are, you and we're doing video calls. That was the future. We were promised video calls. That was
Right in
it.
2001. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna get in your special little room. That's the only part we got wrong, is that the backgrounds are gonna look much worse in 2001. And Back to the Future too, they had like special backdrops and things.
Right.
There was a
Yeah.
special dedicated room, like a phone booth. But I mean, there's a lot of when I feel good is like I said, I feel like in this last year I broadened my skill set. I can do things online. I was writing songs for other people to sort of just keep my craft sharp. But I feel like if you can get through this, you can get through most things.
How do you do that? How do you write it? Like, how does that work? Someone says, please write a song about my daughter or my wife or my girlfriend or
Yeah.
my cat. And then what do? You just take it and you sit. How long does it take you to do that? Like, what's the process?
So yeah, we did this process and we took submissions and people would say, I want you to write a song about blank, and then I have this form they fill out that sort of has them. It's just kind of like a informational form, but it asks questions like things like if there was already a song written about this person, what song would it be? And
Oh. So you have a
what are some
style.
inside jokes?
I
And
get it.
so
Yep.
there's stuff that's sort of telling. And then from there, I come up with a demo version and I send that to them and they approve it or they have tweaks. And then I did a more full, fleshed out version that we professionally mixed. And it's been neat. At this point, I've done about 25 of them. And, like I said, there were ways to me of writing a song about a person I'd never met before was an interesting, I kind of would like to release some of them or something at some point. I'll try to figure out. But for me, it was just an interesting exercise. And like, there's something universal about what everybody wanted communicated in the songs, no matter who they were. But I did all kinds of stuff. The most touching one was for a young man that had passed away who was a fan of mine, and his whole family decided to like come together and have this song written about him. And I did ones for anniversaries. I did ones for very interesting different types of relationships and people's parents and all kinds of stuff. So it was really that's the main thing from this whole year, I think, is I felt like I was let into people's lives in a lot of ways that I wouldn't be normally. Usually when I see fans and listeners, it's at a venue, that's it. I don't go into their lives, but these days I've been zooming into people's houses. I've been hearing about their personal lives and writing songs about it. So there's something actually ironically more intimate about the digital age than there is when we're all in person.
Yeah, you're pretty much echoing some of my previous guests who talked about how this is going to affect positively maybe how we do live music later on when we go back to venues. But also Matt Susage was on, and he was talking about how when he does these virtual events, he's now interacting with his fans, and the fans are interacting with each other more than you would
Right.
at a show because it's loud and people are kind of clustered with their friends. They have a chance to chime in and interact. And I know you love that. Look, see, when I think of you, I'm going to ask you this. There's no way you can quantify this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I always looked at you as more 60-40 in you're a great performer. You love to play live, but I would say a good chunk of your talent and your career has been writing songs. I call you the songsmith, getting in a studio, creating records, creating statements with the records, producing, interacting, building songs out. So I would imagine this kind of thing doesn't completely fail you. Like if you're a band and your whole thing is to be on stage all the time, I could see you balancing this. And this is what I meant about being creative. Not necessarily you were writing a lot of songs, but that you were utilizing this period to do the thing you do well. I don't know if I'm on.
I was very lucky, I was able to get by, and to your point, yes, not all of my income is not based on strictly touring and things like that. So I was lucky to get by and to do okay. But yeah, I know plenty of people that, if their touring was their thing, it's just fully shut down. I've got a good friend who was a lead on Broadway. And, she
Oh,
just
wow.
finished one show. She was about to start another show as the lead. That she lost her job through no fault of her own. And it's just weird how the fault line kind of divided who could work and who couldn't work.
Yeah,
And
that's heartbreaking. It really is. You
yeah,
work your whole
it's
life.
just strange, And a lot of my musician friends are really going through it, and there's a lot of like sort of, what am I if I'm not a musician and not touring, and there's a lifestyle you get used to. So I was very fortunate. I also, when I look back on this time, I think I have a young daughter. I was going to be home more anyway. I was already planning to take some time off the road, but when I look back on this time, I just think I see a massive amount of bonding time with my daughter and my wife
Right.
that I know it wouldn't have been the same if I'd been coming and going. And I think it'll change how I feel about coming and going moving forward and how my family travels with me and things like that. So I feel really lucky that the decision was taken out of my hands, that you're going to be around all the time and there's no other choice. And that was really great for me and my family. Um, but yeah, the year's just been totally sideways.
Yep, and I've said it many times on the show as well. I worked on a book all year, and I was forced to not be social, to not go out to the city and go to lunches with you, or go to do podcasts with Adam, or go to shows, or have people over. And so I hunkered down. That's what I should be disciplining myself anyway, but I was forced to do it. That's a good point. Decision was taken out of our hands. Well,
But
you
that
do
is,
have a
yeah,
new
that's
book
great
out.
for you. Like, yeah, you're in a different place. Your daughter's a little older and more self-sufficient, so you actually had that time to carve out and really get in the trenches, which is exciting, though. I do think it's going to be all kinds of great art that comes out of this time period because people had the time and the creative juices.
Yes. I mean, people have acted different ways. Some people were like completely despondent and couldn't get out of the malaise, and other people dove right in. I was the B part of that, luckily. But let's get to the new music on your part, but it's not really new. This is a fantastic story. We're actually about to record a couple of podcasts as part of the series that we recorded a couple of years ago for a record that you wrote called Before and After Life. And this record is a departure for you in several ways. Number one, you played with a jazz band or a bunch of
Yeah.
jazz cats that had played together that you put together for it. So that was a different style. You did much of like what you did with the Believers on Modern Happiness, where you just went for one take instead of building songs out like you love to do. And then on the other hand, you also wrote not only just one theme like Modern Happiness or Class of '98, but you wrote two themes. One was on at that time, the pending birth of your daughter, who's what, two now?
Two and a half. Yeah.
It's two and a half, Zelda. And the passing of your mother-in-law. And so you wrote songs about life coming and life going. Talk about why that was about to be released too. It was suspended and then now you're going to put it out. What's the thinking behind that?
Yeah, it was a really personal album to me. I wrote and recorded all of it right before um, my wife gave birth. Like, my
Yeah.
daughter was born at the end of August. We were in the studio like in early August recording everything. And I
Yeah.
remember you said, like, could you put any more pressure on yourself? But I was really into this idea of capturing this moment of me before fatherhood, and I felt it would be different on whatever level after that. So we finished this album and I finished it and was getting ready to put it out, and then suddenly it just didn't feel like the right time. And I mean, yeah, I was like, it has an album cover, it has we did podcasts for it, like it was ready to go, and then just at the last minute I decided it wasn't the right time, and I ended up going in a different direction and making Class of '98, which was a really fun project to work on. And then this year it felt like the right time for a multitude of reasons, but I just think, life and death has never mattered more than this last year. So it just felt like ruminating on life and death and the circle of life really felt good. And also, I just kept coming back to these songs. I'm really proud of these songs. I worked with these really great, yeah, I put together this this Ocean's 11 team of jazz musicians in New York, and I was really proud of the stuff that we did, and I loved what they brought to the music. And I just, in the end, I wanted it to be a part of my history and my catalog. So we're putting it out, and we'll see what people think of it.
Well, let's see what people think of one of the songs. I believe this is the first song on the record. You're going to do an acoustic version, which is great just for us. Why don't you intro this and tell everybody what
Yeah,
this
this
one's
song
about?
it's called The Best Part, and it's the first song on the album, and it's really right. It takes place right after my wife and I discovered she was pregnant, and it's sort of grappling with parenthood coming down the pike and deciding to feel positive about that. So
Yeah, that was my favorite conversations with you as it got closer. What's it like, man? Well, we both have daughters, so And I can tell you what teenagehood is like now that she's 13. Oh boy. All right. Well,
That's a
before
whole
all
other
that
podcast.
happens, you got to have the baby. So
Yes.
this is once again intro it.
Yeah, this song is called The Best Part.
Is this really happening? And are you really real? Looking at the past, I am wondering how to feel. I'm an imperfection, my only guarantee. Impossible to say how much you really mean to me. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Everything was colder until you came along. A little heartbeat beating out a new familiar song. Started as an idea, started as a dream, soon to be a major motion picture on the screen. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. And I believe in the stars. And I believe in the spark. And I believe in beating hearts. Said I believe that we're only getting started on the best part. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. First time that I saw you, fuzzy black and white, a little head and body, I begin to see the light. So now we do the waiting, I guess you're waiting too. Countdown to the moment when we're finally meeting you. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. And I believe in the stars. See, I believe in the spark. Said I believe in beating hearts. Said I believe that we're only getting started on the best part. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum.
That is an acoustic version of a brand new single called The Best Part. First song off of Before and Afterlife, brand new collection of songs by my friend Eric Hutchinson. So speaking of this record, it was great. You invited me in the studio for the first time, and I got to see you interacting with these wonderful musicians. Some of them I still hang out, follow on Instagram. We chat all the time. What was this like as opposed to working with a band you've worked live with the Believers, or also building a record like you did with, say, Pure Fiction or something? Because this really looked like a band situation where you were getting to know these people at the same time you were recording what we hear on these tapes. There wasn't a lot of maybe you did like 3 takes of a song when I was there, and one of those takes is on the record. How was that experience?
I was intimidated by all of these people. I'm not classically trained in music, and all of these people had studied music, and were classically trained musicians. And I sort of liked that challenge, but I was intimidated by them, and I felt this need to be like hyper prepared and to really know exactly what I was looking for. But yeah, it was an interesting situation. One of the big inspirations for this album was kind of the 70s Van Morrison era, like Astral Weeks and Moondance and Tupelo Honey. But I was just reading about how when Van Morrison made Astral Weeks, he like didn't speak to the band at all. He kind of locked himself into a special vocal booth and just did it. And
they had no idea what was going on. I had no charts, nothing. Yeah. That's not how you did it.
No, I mean, I was trying to be more of a communal band leader. So yeah, it was an interesting thing most of them knew each other in some way, and we were kind of finding our zone. And yeah, I'm really into the live take stuff lately. Like I'm actually toying with the idea that the next record might just be a full live record. Like I'm not exactly sure, but something I'm interested in doing is kind of like a sing-along album where the songs are meant to be sung in a group. After this last year we've had, and that it might be fun. More and more what interests me about recording something is capturing a moment which is very old fashioned and not particularly in vogue right now. Whereas, Taylor Swift just recently won the album of the year and said she couldn't wait to meet Bon Iver, who she produced the record with. And they never met because it was all online. And,
Right.
But for me, especially after the last year we've just had, I really missed in-person music. The idea of people making music together, that harmony of life is such a big part of why I got into it and what I really love. So I lost my train of thought, but
No, that was good. That's good.
all right.
Quotable, very quotable as usual. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine doing a project like that challenges you, makes you look at your music differently. And, it's always good to get out of your comfort zone. I don't care what kind of art you do or what kind of writing you do. It's always good to get out of your comfort zone. Speaking of which, where do you see the next project going? I mean, this record isn't even out yet, but I'm just curious to see what because you said you started writing again and you want to do something communal. Are you thinking about like a Running on Empty kind of thing, like Jackson Browne recorded new music live, either with a crowd or in a bus or in a hotel room? Are you thinking about taking it to different areas, not a studio?
I'm still figuring it out, but I think it might be more like just we've got a large crowd of people and we're going to record this sort of all together and everyone singing together, and just more of like creating a live atmosphere. I don't know if there'll be a crowd or not, but it'll be enough people together that, it wouldn't be in a studio because it's going to be too many people. But
Well, you know what? I've got an idea. We'll do it live right now. Here comes the idea. So Eric has this great thing called the Hutch Club, and every year he has people come to New York. Now, he couldn't do it this year, so we did it on Zoom, which was one of the inspirations for doing something. It was last summer, right? And I do the trivia, Eric Hutchinson, and they are an amazing group. They love the songs. They all sing along. They're good people. There's a great vibe there. I'm not saying you would do the live album here, but I could see you doing something like that because everybody already comes ready to sing along, and you could even show them the songs prior
Right.
so they could be part of the recording. Is
that's
that
a
good?
good
Do I
idea.
get 10%?
Yeah, you get 10% of the singing of responsibilities.
I don't want that. But anyway, well, thank you so much for joining me as always. Before I let you go, though, you talked about the Zoom experience. Now, I have not moved from this. This is my wife's Harlequin background stuff and a painting is her. I noticed, and I said right before we went on, but I want you to talk. I noticed right there over your right shoulder and our left, you have a gold record. What is that?
I
A
do.
gold?
It's a gold record for Rock and Roll, my song from a while back. But yeah, it's something, it means a lot to me, the plaque. And when I look at it, it's less like, I find it very humbling to look at it because I just think of all the early morning radio I was doing and how little I was seeing my girlfriend at the time and how much I was just constantly traveling. And to me, it's more of like a badge of honor. So I
You
like
survived.
seeing it, you know.
Yeah.
And it looks good in the Zoom picture here.
It
So,
does.
and
It's
then this
very
one here is it's an illustration of the heroes of Motown. So that's fun too.
That is cool. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me. Stay healthy. Love to the girls. And we'll be chatting in a moment because we're going to do some podcast work. But that is Eric Hutchinson. I'm James Campion. This is Sunshine Spotlight. See you next time.
And I hope she pays just like you